today what we want to do is we want to graft this bud. Now this happens to be a hazelnut, and this is a Asian or Chinese variety known as ferox. This particular tree, hazelnut, is seems to be immune to the eastern filbert blight. Okay, it produces a nut in a burr besides. And what we want to do is we're going to graft, we call this chip budding. We're going to graft this bud onto this stock. Now it happens to be a hybrid hazel. This is Yam Hill, produced by the University of Oregon State, in Corvallis. I couldn't find my grafting knife, but when I first learned how to graft, these are injector blades that go into razors, and here it is right here. And it's a pretty rigid piece of stainless steel with a very sharp edge. I'm going to use this as a draw knife to remove this bud from my cyanwood. Now this is a healthy bud, okay? It doesn't show any defects. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove the bud. Cameraman, back up a little bit. Okay, here we go. All right, now that's our bud, and what we're going to do is we're going to just put this in this clean water here. I've taken the liberty to use bottled water because it's gone through an ozone treatment and it's pretty clean. Now what I do is I remove all my buds at once. This gives me a variety of options as to what fits what diameter stock best, so I don't have to go looking for a bud that fits. You want to have the same diameter stem here and here, so the cambium layer, which is the outer layer, lines up. The cambium layer is this portion right here where the bark is, where the thumbnail is following. That's where the callicine or graft is going to take place. The graft doesn't take place in the center. It's going to take place with this live tissue. Find a place on this stem to put my bud. I'm going to look for an area where the stem runs pretty straight. So I'm going to pick this flat up in here. That's what it is, a flat. There's a bend here, but there's a flat up in this zone here where my two fingers are. So I'm going to make an incision now. Like that. I made a slice. Now I'm going to go to my stock here and see what I got. Okay, I have this piece here. Looks not too bad. Let's see how it compares. Oh, it's beautiful. Okay, it's a perfect match. The diameter of the chip bud is the same width as the stem. The cambium tissue lines up. So now what I have here is this parafilm. This is a wax thermoplastic material. It's used in laboratories for sealing off containers and things. When the chip bud actually wants to grow, it can pop through this material. And this will stretch. So I'll put this on here. And I'll get this. Oops. This is, as you can see, starting this is a tricky event. I should have delicate fingers, but I don't. I was born with these clunky fingers. Okay, now I'm twisting it and I'm getting it nice and tight. I want to get the contact of the cyanwood, which is the chip bud, nice as tight against the stem. So what we're going to get here is we can get a mending of the two pieces of tissue from the cyanwood to the rootstock. Okay, now the more times I wrap this, the more pressure I get, and that tends to ensure contact. As you can see, I'm avoiding putting pressure on the bud itself. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch this more lightly, and now I'm going to seal it. And the reason why I'm going to seal this is because I don't want the bud to dry out. I don't even want the cut area to dry out. By the way, this is the end of May. It's almost June 1st. And the daytime temperature outside is approximately 80 degrees. And that's the perfect temperature for the callousing or the netting of the tissue together. I could have done this inside, but I would have had to have controlled temperatures in order to do this. So I waited this long before doing the grafting. This cyanwood was actually cut in mid-January in Oregon and then was mailed to me for this event, and it's been refrigerated ever since. As you can see, that it's all green wood. It's very much alive. It was in a moist bag here. It was sealed tight, and it's been laying there for 4.5 months. On here is we have the parafilm right over the bud, and there's a thin coating of parafilm over this bud. That's going to prevent drying out. What I want to do now is I want to splint this stem at the grafts, because as this stem is out in the wind and affected by the environment, I don't want it to bend and then break the bond between the netting tissue. So I'm going to use the same paraffin as my rope, if you want to call it that, to bound the splint material with. These happen to be skewers for making Slovakia, and you see them there at the gyro stores, and they're very inexpensive. I paid about 10 cents a piece for them. Got them from Restaurant Supply House. Okay, so I just don't want to put this right where the bud is. Okay, we're going to start here in the center and get some tension on this. Okay, looks, ooh, I should have extra hands. This is the same thing as we want to immobilize, as if you were doing first aid to a person who had broken bone, let's say their wrist. You would want to immobilize them, and you might splint their arms so you don't get any movement. Same thing as that's the purpose of doing this right now, is we don't want any movement that would cause flexation of the stem, that would possibly cause the mending tissue, the netting tissue, from separating from one another. So that's the purpose of this here, the little splint right now. Now this is going to go outside in this nice 80-degree weather that we're having, and I'll just keep it watered, and I'll watch the progress of this. Now what I've also done is I've done approximately 10 grafts. I put 2 grafts on a plant, one opposing the other, one on each side of the tree, not in the same plane as one above the other. What we also have to do is we have to top this tree, because there's a thing called apical dominance. Well, by topping the tree, we remove the apical bud, and this is going to encourage, because there's a hormone release from the apex buds. So now what will happen is this is going to encourage a lateral branching, and this is what we have here. These buds are lateral buds, and we want the nourishment to go there rather than to get growth at the top of the plant. The other thing is, during the grafting process, you need to have leaves here, because this is the fuel cell that's generating sugar or nutrient to the plant that's going to feed this graft. You can't do a graft on a tree without leaves like this, okay? So that concludes our grafting seminar here. Thank you.